Ashley St. Armand is the new artist in residence at the Chandler Center for the Arts. She's working on developing a musical called Ordinary Folks, which incorporates largely forgotten African-American folk tales with jazz, gospel, and R&B. We welcome Ashley St. Armand to Arizona Horizon. Good to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me again.
We had you on a while back, but you weren't artist in residence back then,
I wasn't.
were you?
Now I am.
Yeah, what does that mean?
You're stuck with me. That's what it means. It means that I get to spend more time here in Arizona. I'm based in California, but this town and Chandler Center for the Arts has really become a second home for me. It means that I get to learn from local artists, and I get to use the talent that I have and the skills that I've learned as an artist to develop local culture and arts. So
and it's a 3-year residency?
It is,
True?
yeah.
Okay. All right. Ordinary Folks. What are we talking about here? And we'll start with the title.
You know, a lot of my work, I work in children's entertainment and family programming, and a lot of my work is really based on folk lore. And people, sometimes when they hear that terms folklore or folk music, they think about banjos and they think about a certain kind of culture. But folklore really involves cultures from all across the world, including African American folks. And it just means that it's material that's developed by regular people like you and me, not necessarily professionals. And that's where we really find our most honest history, in my opinion. When you look into folklore, folk music, and the kind of stories that people just told around fires and told around their kitchen tables, you really learn about a people group.
Yeah, and it's like Brer Rabbit. I think almost everyone's heard of Brer Rabbit, but the legend of John Hammond and Suki the Mermaid, I've never heard of those.
Yeah, John Henry is an incredible story about a man who may or may not have been real, but he sort of outran the development of trains and all those sorts of things. And so
I thought it was John Hammond. It's John Henry?
John Henry,
oh,
yeah.
I've
John
heard
Henry.
of John
yeah,
Henry.
That's
he
your
was a
guy.
steel-driving man, for goodness sakes.
Right,
yes.
exactly. And so, in fact, mentioning that, you know, it's folks like, all the wonderful folk singers who came before me that inspired me to do this kind of work, bringing the stories from our personal culture to folks all across the world.
And you're doing this now with jazz and gospel and R&B, and you got a book on your lap there. This is what now?
Now this is the Book of Negro Folklore by Langston Hughes, and I've been studying books like this, books like the Annotated African American Folklore by Henry Louis Gates, a wonderful genealogist and historian. I'm really digging really deep to find these stories that have been largely hidden from us. I find that lots of times African American folks don't dive into this text because it can be dangerous, it can feel painful, it can feel like we've been taken advantage of because of some of this work. But I think this is, again, our most honest work where we learn that Black folks really have been multidimensional for all of time. We've been creative, we've told stories, we've loved, and we've made song all this time.
And now you've got to take some of these stories and some of these John Henry and Brer Rabbit and the whole 9 yards here. You got to design a set, you got to design costumes, you got to make the music, you got to tell the story. That's a lot of work.
It is. I've had my work already cut out for me before with The North, the musical, which is a musical based in the antebellum South. So I've had experience, but it is a big load. But I feel called to this work. I always want to create something that feels approachable to all people, regardless of the foundation of the work and the people that it comes from. At the end of the day, I just want to tell these stories in a way that people feel connected to.
You say you feel called to the work, but is there a little bit of extra anxiety there? Because, I mean, you're dealing with some pretty cemented stories. This is history here, and you don't want to mess it up.
Yeah, I want to do it right. And I also have seen it done wrong over time so much. I'm very thankful to folks who had the resources to preserve this work, for example, but oftentimes that work was preserved by people who didn't come from our culture, and they used that work to make fun of us and to put us down and to say that we weren't enough. And so it does feel like a lot of pressure that I'm willing to take on to tell these stories in a way that celebrates our culture instead of demeans it.
Now, as artists in residence and in terms of developing Ordinary Folks, you have workshops you're doing as well and teaching thing, educational kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, this is such a beautiful community of folks here that helped me develop this, and so I'm going to have workshops here where I hear from local folk artists and folk tellers who can help me think about how I want to stage this in a way that feels approachable to local community members.
Now, how long do you think before Ordinary Folks becomes ready to go?
It's supposed to go on stage in 2026.
2026?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got until then to figure it out.
Yes.
How's it going?
It's going great. I'm in the the stages where I'm just in my home, just, creating songs in my couch and playing little melodies on my piano, and it's really a beautiful stage.
Wow,
It's just budding.
that sounds great. I mean, it
Yeah.
sounds great to be creative like that, have the room to do it.
This residency gives me that room, which
Yeah.
is really a beautiful, beautiful gift.
Well, congratulations on that. Best of
you.
luck on the production.
Thank you so much.
Good to have you here.